Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Jigyasa Analytics webinar on predicting subscriber churn. My name is Krishna Mehta, and I will be taking you through the presentation today. A little bit about us. We are a data science company based out of New Jersey and have global delivery capabilities. Uh, we help organizations make better decisions for their marketing, operations, as well as risk using uh, data science, machine learning, and artificial intelligence. Uh, we serve clients in publishing, nonprofits, as well as small to medium financial services and retail organizations. Here are some brands which have worked with us in the past. So let us start our discussion by looking at the type of subscribers an organization might have. So the first type is people who are on trial. So it is very common for any organization to offer a trial subscription, whether it might be for a software or a service or a magazine, and these would be typically something like a couple of weeks of trial to maybe a month's trial, but it is a period of time over which the customer gets to kick the tires and essentially understand if this product is for them. And then once after the trial, the natural progression is in term. So this is when the customer has committed to uh, taking on the service and paying for it, and there is a term for the service. It could be 6 months, a year, it could be 2 years, 3 years, but there is a term for the relationship. And then the third type of subscriber are the month-to-month subscribers. And these would be once the term has expired, the customer may choose to start another term. And sometimes organizations give them incentives to start another term. And other times, the customer might continue the services without getting into another term, and they are essentially month to month. They are free to give a month's notice and cancel their relationship with the organization. And what we will talk about in this presentation is the challenges and the opportunities in predicting churn for each of these different type of relationships an organization might have with its subscribers. Let us start talking about predicting churn for customers who are on a trial. So there are different types of customers on trial, and again there might be more than two types, but broadly speaking there is one group that has a very specific requirement. You need that video editing software just for this one project, or there is this article you really want to read for work or for some other reason, and so you take on a trial subscription for this limited use. And then there are people who might feel that, hey, in the work I do, the video editing software might be useful, so let me spend some time trying to figure out if this product is for me. So these people are genuinely trying to figure out the uh, product. So mm, if we have these two types of customers, it is very important to predict the reason the customer is taking on the trial. And it is important because the trial experience might be more useful for the second type of customer who have this need for the product and are trying to figure out if this is for them. Whereas the people who have the sporadic or one time use, maybe they just would work if this and engage if there was a substantial price discount and it was attractive to them. They do not have a regular need for this product, so there might be opportunity to offer different paths, experience path to the two different groups, and therefore what you need is a good segmentation algorithm which would help you identify these two different type of customers. Now, a big challenge in predicting trial, this churn, is that there is a short window to act, very, very short window to act. And the data is also very limited because of this short window. You there are studies, and what we have seen is often the first 24 to 36 hours is uh, the window you have, and and then there might be definitely not more than the um, trial period, which itself is very short. And so trying to do all of this within this time and getting it all in place, uh, you need good machine learning or regression algorithms, and your algorithms have to constantly adapt to changing scenarios and the environment and customer behavior. Let us now talk about predicting churn for the subscription term. Now, the life cycle of the customer through the subscription term can be broadly defined into an early period, so we will predict early churn for this period. There is the ongoing period, and we will predict ongoing churn for that. And then the contract is up for renewal towards the end of the term, and that is when we will predict the end of term. Now, the challenges for each of these stages are different, and so we have to talk a little bit about how they are different and what's the best strategy for each. So for early churn, we have limited usage data. We still have to depend a lot on the customer's characteristics, and we do know their usage. Uh, we have some information on that, but maybe not enough to make definitive patterns, and therefore uh, mm, there is still going to be a lot of reliance on who the customer is and what they are doing is important, of course, that's the most important thing, but it might not be as predictive because there is limited amount of that data during this stage. And from our experience, machine learning or regression models work very well during this stage. And then there is the ongoing churn. So this ongoing stage, now the customer has established patterns. Maybe they log in every day, or they log in every third day, they log in over the weekends. Um, so there is an established pattern now which we can use to predict their behavior. And so what we will see is that the behavior becomes more important in the models, and who they are still matters, but less so. And the focus of all modeling here is given they have been customers, say, for this week or this month, how likely they are to survive to the next month. And survival analysis techniques work very well in this stage of the customer. I'm not saying that that's the only technique we can use. We can use other machine learning and regression techniques as well, but we have found survival techniques to be do very well in this stage of the customer. And that then leads to when the contract is about to end, the end of term. And during this term, we have now comprehensive data available. We have really gotten all the usage of the customer, their change in patterns, behavior, all of that is available for our use. And so often that becomes the most driving factor in predicting whether the customer will renew or continue to stay as a customer, all of that. And in this, what we have seen is that again, machine learning and regression techniques work very well here. Let us now talk about predicting month to month churn. So, one of the key things here now is that there is no contract. So, there is no early in the contract or no end of term predictions. The it is basically just this month or this period and then the next period and so on. And the data available to do the modeling and the analysis is dependent on how long the customer has been. There could be customers who have just had one contract and then they have gone month to month, and there might be customers who have been there for 10 years and then gone month to month, and those 10 years might have been 7 of those years are month to month versus um, mm, just this year is month to month. So there is a lot of variability and richness available in the data um, for the customers. And again, the focus of the analysis here is again to predict the likelihood of survival to the next period. And because of that, what we uh, want to do is again try something like survival analysis. As I had mentioned earlier, there could be other techniques, machine learning techniques, regression techniques, but from our experience, again, for predicting month to month churn, survival techniques work the best. We will now spend some time talking about churn definitions. And the first thing I want to talk about is soft versus hard churn. So, the relationship with the customer could be month to month or term defined. And hard churn is defined when the customer ends the relationship. So they might call customer service or send an email or through the customer portal, uh, uh, initiate a transaction to cancel the actual relationship. So that is hard churn. But silent or soft churn is the reduction in engagement without termination of the relationship. The reduction in the amount spent or the quantity purchased, the less time spent on the site or the application, the frequency of visit gets diminished. So all of this, and there might be on specific cases other indicators of this, where there is a drop in customer engagement without a formal end to the relationship, and that is called a soft churn or silent churn. There are some challenges to predicting silent attrition. The first challenge is that change in behavior might be confounded by customers' patterns and trends. Let me explain. The customer might be doing some seasonal purchase, and that seasonal purchase behavior might show up as a spike or drop in the engagement, and might be confused with silent attrition. And then the customer's overall level of engagement might change due to life changes, birth of a child, marriage, things like that, which change the overall pattern of behavior and the terms of engagement of the customer. But then the customer then stabilizes to a new normal. Both these seasonal behavior as well as the overall lifestyle changes or life changes can be mistaken for silent attrition, and therefore, you know, good historical baseline for the customer is needed, as well as you just cannot predict silent churn based on rate of change of engagement. It has to be a more sophisticated and finessed and account for projected behavior based on patterns and trend. And that makes this very interesting and challenging. Another challenge in predicting the customer's silent attrition is the change of behavior might be driven by market forces. Uh, these could be macroeconomic forces, or could be local events. So, for example, uh, there is a general recession, so everyone is spending less, not just your customer. And there could be, in different scenarios, other factors, local factors. There might be a local storm which caused a disruption for a period of time and led to not so normal behavior. And therefore, cohort cross section data with appropriate level of aggregation is needed to create a baseline against which you measure the customer's behavior. And doing that allows you to get a true measure of silent attrition. Let us now talk about making the churn definition operational. By operational, what I mean is that having a churn definition which takes into account the different types of customer behavior, as well as the business requirements, as well as the operational constraints. So let's delve deeper into that. So the first question we need to address is whether we need to consider soft attrition, and it depends on the business and an evaluation whether soft attrition can happen here or not. In most cases, there is need to consider soft attrition, and then there might be a practical question also. Can we effectively measure soft attrition, and given the data and the infrastructure? And if it cannot be done, then that might be a phase two of your project. But as a first phase, you just focus on hard attrition. The next thing is, what is the preferred horizon over which business would like to predict churn? And it varies from with the customer type and the life stage. You know, you might want who is likely to churn over the next few months, the next few days, the next few weeks. and over the next year. It depends on the type of contracts you have, where the customer is on the contract. But uh, it is something you need to consider and bake into your definition. So when you do the actual model and you define these churn variables, whether it will be something like likelihood to churn over the next week, or likelihood to churn over the next month, or the next quarter, something like that, it has to be well defined. And then, what is the time needed to implement a strategy? And see, you are doing this churn model because you want to understand who is likely to churn in the future. The future being defined as a time horizon. Why are you doing this? You're doing this so that you can take some preventive action and prevent the churn. And so the question becomes, how much time do you need to put a strategy together and implement it for this customer? So, for example, if you want to know who's likely to churn over the next week, but because of your operational and programming constraints, you end up only with a plan which becomes operational in 10 days. So then predicting who's likely to uh, churn over the next week is not very useful. Then maybe you should predict who is likely to churn in the next 2 weeks. And so the reality of time needed to implement a retention strategy is very important. And then uh, the final question is, do some of these parameters differ versus for the different types of customers you have? And we touched on that when we talked about the horizon, but it could be true also for your strategy. It also could be true for whether you can consider hard attrition or so versus soft attrition. Maybe for your more mature customers with longer history and more data, some greater finesse might be possible in terms of considering these different options versus your not so mature customers. And um, all of this needs to be thought through well before you embark on your actual analytics journey of predicting customer churn, because that's what will define how your models are built and how successful your models are. Thank you so much for taking the time to join our presentation today. I hope you found the content useful. We look forward to having you back again with us for another presentation. And thank you again, and have a wonderful day.